Good morning. Good morning. Just waiting for Cheryl to join. Hello, hello. Welcome to those of you just joining. Let me see about where Cheryl is. I don't think there's a different way for me to invite her. Hey, everybody. Welcome to those of you hopping on. There's Cheryl.
I even I missed the little button at the bottom that said join the live stream. So happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for hopping on and having a fun conversation.
Yeah, well, I had a wee bit of technical challenge, but here I am and anxious to talk about what our mothers did not teach us.
Right?
Yeah.
It's and I forget, is your mom still with us? Is she still
I'm going to be seeing her within the hour.
excellent?
She's actually still pretty hale and hearty. She's
Yep.
had a real set of health challenges the last 5 years, but she's 85 and pretty feisty.
Yep. My mom's 90, almost 91 and feisty, active, still living at home and living independently and doing great, still driving and
Really?
mhm.
Well, that is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's probably gonna be stalking us later. She probably got my newsletter, and it's gonna be like, "All right, what are they gonna say about me?"
Okay, we'll have to be real good then, because you don't
You
wanna get
know,
in trouble
like,
with your mom.
we do not. We do not. And that's one of the things, like, I was thinking, like, my mom worked so hard as a mom. My dad was away quite a lot. He was in the Navy, and then they were separated, they had marital difficulties, so my mom was a single mom for 3 kids for much of the time,
Yeah.
while
Wow.
he was away,
Here's to
and
her.
then they were separated and later on divorced, so she really did a lot of the raising of 3 girls by herself,
In a
and
time when that wasn't the norm.
yeah, and she was my dad was an officer in the Navy, and that just didn't happen, like, we certainly didn't talk about it. And I think there was, quite an emphasis on keeping up appearances. And we
Yeah.
just didn't talk about marital difficulties. We certainly didn't talk about it with the kids.
Right.
Um, and, I give her a lot of credit for doing as well as she did.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was just this kinda sense that if your marriage didn't work, it was always the woman's fault.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was
You shoulda
you know,
not made meatloaf on Tuesdays and everything would have been okay.
right? If she
Yeah.
only wore a proper length cocktail dress. It
Yeah.
was and it really was, like, my mom was really hesitant to speak poorly of my dad and his shortcomings. She was very oblique around that, and society, there was really this, like you said, this, kind of impression that when a marriage went south, it was on the woman. She let
Yeah.
herself go, she wasn't working hard enough, she wasn't attentive enough, um and that was kind of the underlying current, and as a kid, you don't know any better, and when we don't speak ill of dad and his role in things, um, but so I think as kids, we're meaning-making, um, machines. We really can create stories in our mind about what's happening in a marriage and in parents'
'Cause you pick up
relationships.
on the vibes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just didn't talk about things. But yeah, so thanks for hopping on and happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
Here's to our very much alive moms.
Here's to my mom. My parents did stay together until my dad
Mhm.
passed, but there was never any fighting,
Mhm.
you know? because, women didn't have a lot of economic options. You weren't allowed. And I'm from Canada, but I don't believe it was too different in other countries. Women weren't allowed to have credit cards and mortgages and things like that in their own name. So if you didn't have your husband, you wouldn't be able to own a home,
Yeah,
you know, or be able to like buy a stove or
right.
fridge. So there was never any real overt issues, but my mom was pissed.
Yeah.
She was frustrated, and she was uh, held back from doing what she really wanted to do. Not because my dad said no, but just because she was stuck with raising the kids while he went out and
Mhm.
worked, which most of our parents were like that. But I think a lot of that frustration that our mother's generation was experiencing, their lack of opportunity, their lack of validation, their lack of voice, that communicated to us as women as cross your legs, be a good girl, act like a lady, you'll be treated like a lady. And then as we move into
Mhm.
our midlife and we get to the age that we are now, we're starting to experience some of that frustration, that feeling that we have a lack of voice, but we're not going to sit back and just cross our legs anymore.
Mhm.
So we're asking for answers and actively seeking support.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about it. And, there were so many years where, like, if you went to therapy, you really talked about, like, the role your parents and your upbringing had, and, there was kind of a bit of fault finding in this archaeology quest that you did around your family of origin. And now I think there's this lovely place of, well, you became an adult in your teens, and ever since then, it's on you, sister, and your decisions and your choices. And I love that, um, kind of that taking responsibility for the course of your life and asking those hard questions. Um, and I was thinking about, what would be some potent questions we could ask and ask anyone who's on the live about their understanding about what their mom talked about or didn't talk about, their understanding of how their mom was raised in terms of sexuality or aging or menopause. Like, I never thought my mom was like a sexual being, like, what? Like, yeah, she, and it was the 70s, and, they were fairly liberal, and there were, it was, yeah. And so, but we didn't talk about, like, as kids and being raised, like, as we were being, raised in our sexuality, like, we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
You figure
Yeah.
things out on your own, and good luck, and, as long as everything looked okay on the outside, things must be okay.
Right. Right. And like you said before, appearances were everything. But I,
Mhm,
I remember if you go back and you think about the messages that you got from your mom about how to be a woman,
mhm,
I remember discovering one of my uncle's um, racy novel, shall we say, and I was an avid
mhm,
reader, like, even as under 10 years old, avid reader, and I would just, like, pour through wherever I could find something to read, and I discovered one of my uncle's, like, racy novels. My mother grabbed that from me, and she says, "I don't want you to think that that's the way the world works."
mm,
So, and I remember getting a couple chapters into the novel, and it wasn't anything disgusting. It was more like a woman was seeking sex. She was,
mhm,
like, out there, putting herself out there saying that she was interested in finding partners. And I thought, so the message now is, as my 63-year-old self, was that women shouldn't ask for it. Women shouldn't have desire. Women should just sit there and look pretty and, pretend it's not on their minds.
mhm.
So that was one of my first experiences with the messaging around sexuality.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? And my dad had Playboy magazines, and they were always in my parents' bathroom, and as kids we'd be like, "Hee hee 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 hee," but he was like, "I read it for the articles," and we just, like, took that for what it was. And it, like, I read it for the articles. I get it for the articles, and I'm like, it's just interesting, how in some respects things were so overt and out there about sexuality and um but it wasn't talked about. It was there's some real mixed messages. But I had a couple questions that I thought. And hey, LCB, uh, let me see questions. Oh, you know what? I put them in a doc, and I'm
I had
just
another
gonna.
little tiny story.
Yes,
This is
please.
my first experience of, the functions of a woman's body, like, when you got your period. So the first time I got the period, we were very poor when I was growing up, and this is
Mhm.
I'm older than you, Kim, so this might well shock you, but we couldn't afford to buy sanitary products in my home.
Mhm.
So my mother would reuse, just like they used to do in the Depression 100 years ago type thing, rags, and you would just pin them,
Yeah.
on in your underwear at a certain place. So, anyway, there was a great deal of instruction about what to do with these dirty rags when you had your period, and the messaging was, "And don't let your brother and father see them. Nobody wants to see that."
Yeah.
So you were getting a very clear message that the natural functioning of a healthy human female was disgusting
Mhm.
and should be hidden.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get to the
Yeah.
questions now. Sorry, I was busy telling the stories.
No, I think, and it's so true. I remember, you never wanted your tampons or pads to really be seen. You put them away.
Yeah.
And if there were, blood stains in your underwear, you make sure those are, ugh, and that was like the worst thing ever. Like, well,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is a natural part of, and yes.
And I went through that even as a mature female, as I'm going through perimenopause and bleeding out every month, which I didn't
Mm,
realize was a symptom of perimenopause,
mhm,
which just goes to show you how you really do need a coach or somebody from the outside to help you understand sometimes and connect the dots.
mhm.
Um, because I didn't, even as a yoga therapist, I missed a lot of it. But as I'm bleeding out, I'm mortified that I'm leaking through I'm like a 45, 50-year-old woman, 55-year-old woman, and I'm still feeling
Mhm.
so embarrassed
Yeah,
that I'm having a natural, healthy function in my
right,
body.
right. And then the other one that got me, there was when I started having hot flashes,
Mm.
there was like this shame
Yes.
around having hot flashes in public or at a work meeting or when I was teaching yoga. I'm having a hot flash.
Yeah.
And sometimes there would be like comments, "Oh, are you having a hot flash?" Like,
Yeah.
kind of this judginess around, like, yes, I'm having a hot flash. Like, I have arrived. Like, I've made it through young adulthood. I made it through mid adulthood. And now I am like, it was just interesting that, like, there's a sense of shame and
Yeah.
hiding the natural effects of aging. And I still find myself, um, in this push-pull around aging gracefully, and then I'll catch myself on Instagram looking at creams and face yoga for the turkey neck thing, and, like, how do I get more suppleness? And I'll buy hyaluronic acid, and I'm like, so there's this push-pull around aging naturally and aging gracefully, and do I color my hair to cover the grays or not? And, oh, yeah.
I know there's so much pressure. And I think it's interesting when you talk about the hot flashes because I think about that my menopausal journey started during the first shutdowns of COVID. So I was able to hide behind the Zoom camera and have a fan blowing on me, so my students never really saw the full brunt of that sweaty mess.
Mm,
Um, but I remember being kind of grateful that that was happening when we're on shutdown, so I didn't have to face anybody because
mhm,
people would look at you, with the red face and the sweat. And I think about all the women who have gone through that journey in public view.
mhm,
Maybe they're at a boardroom table, maybe they're a public figure, maybe they're a media figure. And I'm thinking, how many women who are smart, still have many years of contribution that our society would benefit from, have dropped out because of our societal attitudes towards aging and those
mhm.
hot flashes, that lack of sleep, maybe bleeding through their clothes. It was just so mortifying. They just said, "You know what? I'm too tired. I can't do this anymore." And we
Yep.
lost them.
Yeah.
It almost happened to me. Like, I almost quit. I was like,
Mhm.
I can't do this anymore." And then after the worst of the hot flashes and I got some help, I was like, "Actually, I don't wanna quit,"
Yeah.
you know? But how many women are so reluctant to go ask for help because they are feeling ashamed that they can't handle it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't remember my mother ever talking about menopause or, the cessation of her period or hot flashes. I don't remember her going through, like, anything around her period. I don't even know that I ever recognized she really had a period. She must have had a period,
Yeah,
right?
but you kept it hidden. Yeah.
And, I knew she suffered from migraines that were hormone related, but beyond that, but that was like an acceptable type of, like, being taken out. Like, that was an acceptable illness.
Do you remember
Having
Bewitched? The mother-in-law always had a sick
Yeah,
headache?
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, it's interesting, and I hope that, you know, women today are able to have these conversations with their daughters as they're aging and as they're coming into their own menopause. And, you know, it's just fascinating. Um, but I have a question for you.
Uh-oh,
All right.
okay.
Since there's only one other person on the live that I see. Um, So, a question for you. If you're game to answer a question, what's one thing you wish your mother had been able to say out loud about her body, her feelings, her life that would have made a difference for you?
I definitely think that, remember I was talking a little bit about that sense of frustration that they didn't have a voice? There's
Mhm.
so many times that my mom just, like, automatically capitulated to the male forces in our world, and I really wish she would have demonstrated for me, and maybe sh it was just impossible in that time, but I wish she would have demonstrated not to be, like, violent or angry or anything, but just, like, not jump up and serve everyone else's milk glass before she was allowed to sit down and eat. Not when
Mhm.
when one of the men in the household said, who's that calling on the telephone?" And her run and jump up or always capitulate to whatever someone else wanted to watch on TV because we only had one TV with
Yeah.
no remote control, right? But the man, because he worked all day. So I
Mhm.
really wish I would have seen my mom. And even to this day, my dad's gone, but there's been another relationship for my mom. And she's gone right back into that chameleon-like
Mhm.
role. Um, so I would just love it, even to this day, if she would stand up and just say, "No, I'm sorry, but
Mhm.
my needs are important, and I do not exist only because other people need me." Or the um, through sacrificing my own needs, it doesn't mean that I'm a worthy person. I'm a worthy person because I am.
Mhm.
Really wish I'd see that from her even today. It would be
Yeah.
so helpful for me because I struggle with that as a grown woman.
Yeah.
How about you, Kim?
And
How would you answer that question?
I think it's really similar. Like, I watched my mom make other people comfortable, or more specifically, she really went out of her way not to make other people uncomfortable. So she would, like, make sure no one else was inconvenienced at her own inconvenience. And
Yeah.
she, at work, she was a nurse, and in her later part of her career, she was a nurse manager. And, she ended up being like an administrator at a big hospital. So she had, gone up the ranks, but you could still see her reluctance to make waves.
Yeah.
And she she had a subtle way of, um, like, not pushing her weight around, but she had a motto of "Kill them with kindness," and there was this lack of direct speech and kind of passive, and she just didn't want to make like, "You catch more flies with honey."
Then
Um,
vinegar.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and so the inability to be assertive, um, she really felt that being assertive was going to make you unlikable,
Yeah.
and, being unlikable was one of the worst things.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
for women, that was their social capital. That was the way they
Mhm,
survived in the world was to, find the right man, get married, keep that
mhm,
man, and then at work too to have, everyone
mhm.
like them so they could be promoted.
Yep,
Mm.
yep, you wanna be, um, competent, but not so competent that you make other people uncomfortable, like this tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't be too boastful, too showy. Don't be so full of yourself.
yeah.
Um, uh,
Yeah,
um,
so, I mean, I think we're still working through a lot of that in my generation.
mhm.
Now what do you have another question?
I do. I
Mhm.
do. Have you ever caught yourself doing or believing something about your body that came straight from your mother?
Oh,
What
yeah.
happened when you noticed it?
Oh, yeah. My dad, um, really had a thing about heavy women. He
Mhm.
would he would he would fat shame. That's what we're
Mhm.
doing nowadays. And, so I have that voice because, of course, my mom would do everything she could to and luckily she had that beautiful metabolism. But there was a lot about when I hit about 13, puppy fat. That's
Mhm.
what I call it. It's a natural sort of process when you hit puberty that you are going to put on a little extra fat. It's
Mhm.
healthy. But her and her friends would comment, "Oh, Cheryl's getting chubby, isn't she?" And that those messages
Oh,
still live in my head.
yeah.
And I think back now to those women, they would have been in their early 30s because they all had babies at 18 back then. And they would have been mid-30s, early 30s, those women, and I thought, "What bitches," that they would comment on someone else's
Got a
child.
kid.
But
Yeah.
that was the circle my mom was in. Maybe all of our
Mhm.
mothers were in that circle where having a nice figure was
Mhm.
extremely that was your currency. You didn't
Yes.
wanna let yourself go. You already talked about that a little bit.
It's and that's the one that sticks with me too, is having a nice figure, having nice posture. Um, and for me, like, having a nice posture meant being chesty, and I matured, my breasts matured pretty quickly. And so as a teen, like, that was what I got attention for. Um, but my dad, one of the things that I remember my dad, he had some off-color jokes, like, very misogynistic, and I was 11. I couldn't have been because he passed away when I was 11. So I couldn't have been any older than that, hearing these really off-color, misogynistic, sexist, um the message was that women are only good for a couple of things, and thinking is not one of them.
Or voicing your truth.
Yeah,
Don't be one of those women.
don't be one of those women.
Yeah.
Um,
Butchy. You don't wanna be butchy.
yeah, watch it.
Who came up with
Um, yeah, and so the one with my mother, the question, have you ever caught yourself doing or believing something about your body that came straight from your mother? Um, yeah, and I remember my mom, like, picking at hairs and sitting with a magnifying, um, like the vanity mirror, the magnifying vanity mirror, picking at hairs, at pores. And I know for myself, like, I pick that up. I'm like, I'm just going to go in the mirror and start picking, 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 and thinking about, like, just having a body is somehow flawed. that you have to shave, you've got to do this, you've got to pluck, you've got to tweeze, you need to having a body, like, no, your body is hairy, like, humans are hairy, we are hairy ass mammals, and but the societal norm of being smooth and, flawless, and so that's the one, but that's the one that sticks with me from childhood, but I think it's more the messages that my dad gave than my mom about the body and about, like, the value of a woman.
Right.
Um, yeah, interesting,
Yeah.
very interesting.
So this on Mother's Day, we honor our mothers because they
Mm,
did not have an easy road. Sometimes I think
mm-mm,
my grandmother, who grew up during the Roaring 20s,
mhm,
sometimes I think my grandmother had a more interesting journey because it was right after post World War One, when women
mhm,
still were riding that wave of getting the vote and working during the World War, and she actually, worked. She actually took a train from where we live in Niagara to Toronto, which was kind of a big capital sort of city, and took night school courses at
uh-huh,
university and stuff. And she actually had like a little bit more of an adventure. My mom grew up in the 1950s, came to
mhm,
and that was very closed, you know.
mhm,
Anyway, so our moms did not have a lot of opportunity. Maybe we grew up with a lot of those ideas, and maybe we didn't take all the different steps that we could have to have the
mhm,
fullest life possible. But here we are at midlife, and the younger generation is really having these conversations, even if we didn't
mhm,
at their age. And we have each other, we have the technology of Zoom and internet and social media.
yeah,
So, my message, I think, as we wrap this up today, would really be to women, especially when you're in midlife, have these conversations. Don't accept the norm. Go out
mhm,
there and ask for recommendations or do your research and find supports. You have some wonderful programs that are
mhm,
amazing. I have some stuff that might be helpful for people. Don't take no for your doctor. If you need hormone therapy in menopause, if the hot flashes are causing
mhm,
you think it's time to retire or quit, and you have some vague idea that they're not like it's not safe or someone, keep asking, get
yep,
the support you need. Um, Go get some really good counseling, some good life coaching, and find
mhm,
out all those messages that have been planted from our society, from our parents. We can root them out. We can work through them.
yep, and we have
So
to
I guess
talk about them. Yes, to
I
talk
don't want to
about
be
them, to
preachy.
root them out. No, preachy. We need
Yeah,
it, good.
this is our chance. We're done
Yeah,
bleeding to death every month. We're done raising our kids.
mhm,
Let's get out there and show the world what mature women are really all about. This is
yep,
our chance. No generation before us has had a chance.
yep, yeah, and I love how in your podcast, you talk about all the things that can help you reset that the body awareness and actually the body and mind health. So actually, not just the toxic positivity, like, "I'm just gonna, like, meditate on my chakras until I feel better." Like, actually do some weight training. You can work with nutrition, you can work with sleep, you can work with your physician on medication, on, like, all sorts of different things, and looking at the whole person to help reset. Um, and one thing that I was talking with my mom, she was like, "I really need to, take this weight off. I
At
really need to."
91.
At 91, "I really need to get this weight off." I'm like, "Well, Ma, like, one of your daughters is a certified health coach. Like, if you wanna talk about diet and exercise and nutrition," and she goes, "Well, I don't think it and exercise is where it's gonna be for me." Like, "Okay. Well, still okay. Well."
Well, you know what they say, Kim. It's hard to be a prophet in your own land.
Yes. Yes, but it's interesting. Yeah. So I love the tools that you give people through your podcasts. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
we have
did
an episode featuring Kim too, if anybody wants it, message me and I'll send you the link.
let me get your podcast up here. I did have a link and then I closed it all down. Spotify,
Well, if you search on
midlife.
Substack, you'll find it because I publish the podcast through Substack. It's called The Midlife Reset,
Yeah,
and,
so
it's over a year old now.
good.
Yeah.
Uh, I pulled it up. Let me get the actually, this is a specific episode that I really like, Strong Bones, Strong Body,
Oh,
about
yeah.
osteoporosis.
Is that the
So
one that
that
just
was
came out with Candy Price? Because Candy's here on Substack as well. I
oh,
don't
I
know if
don't
you've
know
ever
Candy.
connected, but maybe we should do a
That
three-way
would be great. That
because
would be
Candy's really
wonderful.
cool. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the more we know about what we can do to ward this off, to
Mhm.
treat it if we have it, um, yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff, good stuff. All righty. Well, honoring our moms and how hard they worked to do what they did.
What they managed to do, yeah.
Yep.
And honoring you too, Kim. I know you and I work pretty hard too as moms.
Well, I was child-free by choice, but I have stepkids. I have 2 adult stepkids who were
That counts.
fully formed by the time I got there, but hopefully being, a grandparent to a couple littles, and I have a my, daughter-in-law is pregnant with their first, so, yeah, and how is this generation of women gonna be raising their girl kiddos and
Yeah,
boys?
and
Like,
boys too. Yeah.
what
Fur
does this
baby
look like?
fur babies count.
Mhm.
A
Yep,
lot of maternal energy goes into fur babies.
that's true. Not so much with houseplants. I don't know if you can see my sad houseplants.
At least you have houseplants.
Oh my goodness, look at that thing back there. Oh,
Aw.
very
I'm not
sad
very good with
houseplant.
them. That's why I
I
don't really
try.
have anyway.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today,
Thank you,
and
Kim.
I
I
hope to
always
do
love
this
our
again soon.
conversations.
Me too.
Namaste, my fellow yogi. We'll talk soon. And I'll hook you up with Candy. Candy does yoga too.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.